Hey guys, I'm the Antigoat. I'm here making this video to tell you about the Ghost perk in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. This perk seems like pretty simple at first, however there's a few odd ways that this perk acts in Black Ops 4 that makes it pretty different from previous Call of Duty games. Now to give you a bit of a history lesson on UAV related perks, the first UAV prevention perk we ever had was called UAV Jammer and was introduced in Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, and actually that came alongside UAVs themselves. It was the first ever induction of the UAV and kill streaks in general. This perk kept you, as you might guess, from appearing on enemies' minimaps whenever they got a UAV or UAV equivalent streak. Over the next couple of years, the perk would change name between titles, but would end up settling into the Black Ops series with the name of Ghost. Over time, the perk evolved from being an innate protection from UAV to where you had to move in order for the protection to be granted to you. And they did this to prevent camping, because people were just sitting in corners and being invisible to UAV. Fast forward to Black Ops 4, and this new evolution of the Ghost perk that we have is kind of different from previous Ghost perks, and to be honest, I don't really like it at all. So to start off, we have to ask ourselves, albeit a very simple question, what does Ghost actually do? Now the in-game description says, quote, undetectable by enemy UAVs while moving, planting, or defusing bombs, or controlling score streaks. Now, being undetectable is indicated by the graying out of your area on the minimap. It's very easy to see. You just look into the left-hand corner, and you'll see it. Very easy, very obvious. So this perk gives us four main benefits. And admittedly, those last three are very nice. However, they aren't really game-changing, super useful things when you take in the full context of the game. Being undetectable by a UAV while planting and defusing is nice, but UAVs really aren't super prevalent. In SMD, you might have one, and usually if you have more than one coming from the enemy team, you're kind of getting rocked, so it's really not going to help you that much anyways. And I just really don't think it's a big reason to pick the perk. I don't think that's a main draw of the perk. Being undetectable while using score streaks, now this is probably more of a me thing, but most of the controllable score streaks have very short use times, like a Hellstorm or Lightning Strike. You just drop them and they're done. Or the ones you can control can usually also be controlled by AI. And if you haven't noticed, the AI is very powerful, and you should just let the AI control in general. Like, have you seen the Mantis and the attack helicopter AI? They're fucking insane. Anyways, the main draw of the perk, for me, and I believe most people, is the being undetectable by enemy UAVs while moving part. It's the part of the perk that will give you the most benefit most of the time. So, finally getting into the oddities of the Ghost perk, we must define what moving means. Now this sounds really stupid, however it's very important for how this perk functions. In other games this perk would function after sustained movement after about a second or so of moving, so moving could be defined as any type of sustained movement. This is not how Ghost functions in Black Ops 4. The Ghost perk only functions when you are moving at a velocity that is equal to or greater than your sprint velocity. I specifically use the term velocity because for Ghost to activate, you must create a certain amount of displacement within a certain amount of time in order for it to work. Since velocity is displacement over time, I find it very appropriate to use in this context. If it were based on speed, I could theoretically run in a very small circle, and just because I'm moving fast enough, would have UAV protection, which as you can see, does not happen. This means that walking does not count as moving within the context of the perk, and therefore does not give you UAV protection. This means that any velocity above sprinting will grant you UAV protection. And just to clarify, sprinting is not a set speed, it's just whatever sprinting would be with the weapon that you have in your hand, because obviously sprinting speed for a handgun is much different than, say, something like a LMG like the Titan. So any velocity that is above your sprinting speed will give you UAV protection, which includes sliding and Ruin's grappling hook. Now, another side note, which is just very non-important, Ruin's Slam will also give you enough velocity at the end of the impact, because he jumps up and moves forward a little bit. That will give you enough velocity to grant you protection for like half a second. Another interesting attribute that this perk has is its variation in deactivation time. During gameplay experience, I found that immediately after dropping under the needed speed, you would lose protection. Now this isn't true, you do not lose your protection immediately. However, it is very quick, and it is quick enough that it will disappear while mantling up a building or over some low cover like, say, a wall or a fence. However, this duration can be increased. For example, if you were to gain if you were to sprint and gain protection and then stop all movement, stop moving and come to 100% dead stop, the protection would last about an extra 1/2 to 3/4 seconds after you stop moving. After this extra half second to 3/4 second, you would show up on the enemy minimap just like normal. However, if you were to continue walking after dropping below sprint velocity, the protection will remain for about 1 to 1 1/4 seconds. I did this through hand testing, so by going through frames in my editing software, so it's not going to be 100% exact. It's kind of hard to get like such small seconds, and to define when a sprint ends and begins and when that timer starts to tick down is kind of difficult, and I really don't know. So these are some pretty rough estimates. But it seems that if you were to keep moving after dropping below sprint, you gain somewhere between 1.5 times to 2 times the protection you would get after a dead stop. Now, another distinction I'd like to make is that sprinting for longer periods of time does not increase either of these durations. Sprinting for 10 seconds versus 10 minutes will result in the same amount of protection in either cases. Also, the weapon that you have held in your hand does not affect the protection that you get in either situations. So you don't get less protection because you're holding a big LMG and get more because you're holding a submachine gun. That's not how it works. It is independent of what gun you have in your hand and for how long you sprint for. So initially with this video, I was planning on absolutely dumping on this perk, as it annoys me because of how I thought it was originally operating in game. After testing it, it isn't nearly as insanely bad as I thought it was, and that being said, I still don't like this perk. And the reason I don't like this perk isn't because it's a bad stealth perk, and in my opinion, I do believe it is a bad stealth perk. But I can live with that. I can live with bad stealth perks, and I can live with bad perks in general. The main reason I dislike this perk so much is because in order to utilize it to any worthwhile capacity, I have to make the poor gameplay decision of sprinting nearly everywhere. To get the main benefit, you have to be sprinting nearly all the time, which actively puts you at a disadvantage. I think that the disadvantage that comes with trying to keep yourself off the radar runs counter to the point of a perk. A perk should be a pure bonus. You're already spending a point on it. It shouldn't force you to play poorly in order to utilize it. And for clarification, I don't like this perk. The reason I do not like Ghost in Black Ops 4 is because that this version of Ghost, I think, is counterintuitive to what a perk should be. Honestly, I would rather take a less powerful perk over this form of Ghost because I think it's more valuable that it's not giving you a disadvantage. Nearly any other perk is kind of more worth spending a point on. And to be honest, many of the perks in this game I don't really think are that great. So at this point, I've pretty much just stopped running Ghost and I just take a Hellion launcher instead. I'm usually not the person to shoot down air support, and I'm generally a pretty selfish player, but for me, Ghost is just such a not worth it perk that it's more convenient to take the time to look up at the sky and to shoot a UAV for my own sake while inadvertently giving help to my teammates. I understand why this decision was made to further discourage camping, but just because I understand the reasoning behind the decision does not mean I have to agree or like the decision. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful or at least semi-interesting. If you really enjoyed this, consider giving this video a like and subscribing. Also, leave a comment about your opinions on the Ghost perk. Aside, I'm trying to get back into making videos again, and I have a couple more videos planned in my head, including some weapons that you're probably not carrying in Blackout, and you probably should be, because there's some sleeper guns in there that are very good, but I don't think a lot of people pick up. So, thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully I'll see you guys later.